tower defense kind of spawning system, right? So we can start the level. It spawns our AI. I'm going to move that down a bit. The AI spawn in. I said if you want to make this random, you can make it random. I just back and forth for myself. We're spawning in different AI at a certain volume of them. And when it's done, we go to the next level, and the next level is a completely different spawning system. Or not spawning systems, different spawning wave. But yeah, there we go. Cool. Hey, I got a camera for Christmas, and thought this was actually it gets requested every once in a while, so I thought I'll finally make it. I'll make a Patreon account, and so I brand new Patreon. I'm not even sure how to even run this freaking thing yet. So, anyways, look at those people, my 3 new favorite people in this world, right there. I made a Patreon, so YouTube's got my tutorials. The Patreon's going to be more of the in-depth tutorials. I think some crazier stuff, some more of the asset integrations, custom actions, kind of more deeper into that kind of thing. Like it's brand new, so I mean, it's not like there's a whole pile there right now, but and it's over Christmas, so I put in some advanced physics actions and stuff in a little video on that. But anyways, by all means, if you guys want to support me on Patreon, awesome. Love the support. Love everyone that's already doing it. If not, you just want to follow along with YouTube, that's great too. Anyways, catch you later. We're gonna do a spawning system, more specifically like a wave spawner, like a tower defense, we'll say. So I thought I would make a bit of a map. Nothing crazy. But anyways, I'll speed all this part up so we don't have to sit here and just watch me do absolutely nothing crazy. well, good enough. It ain't perfect. It's something. It's something that we can play with. It's a little more different than just a white box. Right? It's something. And I didn't UV it very well, but whatever. It's not a big deal. Now, obviously 3D, the difference between 2D and 3D for what this is going to be virtually nothing other than Z and X paired to X and Y. It very, very simple. So here we have a very simplistic, weird looking map. And what we're going to say is if the enemies get to from one side to the other, you know, they get a point or something along those lines. So I'll come in a little closer than that. We'll zoom in like somewhere around there maybe. In fact, I could almost take the camera and go orthographic. I wonder if that would be better for this. Let's make sure it's all lined up. And this thing is lined up. I don't know. Maybe perspective is better. Anywho, not the point. Point is, we need to get AI to spawn in some random locations a certain amount, because we want waves, and we want to tell those where they are and how to get to where they're going. So, in a simplistic form, we could do nav mesh, or we could do a waypoint system. I think for this, you might want to do a waypoint system. It also works better for the 2D. So it might be just a better option to show that. So if I put a sphere somewhere on here, something like that. Now I'm going to get rid of the collider because I don't care about the frick collider. So I'm going to create an empty. We'll call this path 1. The sphere will be a child. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to just path it along like so. And the distance between these markers doesn't really matter per se. On the corners, you probably want a few more because you can think of it as like a resolution to a line. So when you start hitting these tight areas, you kind of got to increase that kind of resolution so they path properly. Right, so there's like path 1. Okay, so I'm going to take another one of these because I know it's at this right level. And well, I should probably start on the same side. You don't have to, but we might as well, because why not? So there's that, and let's create another empty and call this one path 2. Alright, now I might as well just put that there and go from him. So we need this pathing system for this. Now this is why this will work in 2D if you go this route, right? I mean, the idea of the waypoints means you don't need a nav mesh. If you want to go nav mesh route, that's totally fine. You don't have to, but it's there. The option's there. But this route works totally fine with 2D. Right, so now we have two paths. So now that we have those paths, for now, I'm going to select them all, unselect the routes, and I'm going to just deactivate the mesh renderer. So I don't feel like looking at a bunch of stupid spheres. I just need the positions. Alright, so what we need is some sort of manager. I use managers for everything. Right, so we have a manager. So the other thing we're going to need is probably two proxies here. We can call one path 1 and one path 2. Pretty simple. Now, because I really don't feel like dragging in all of those things by hand, because that would be another 20 minutes of just a waste of time. Instead, we will get children. Array list, get children of game object. So we need two of those. So path 1 can be path 1. And we might as well just copy this action and paste it and do path 2. Path 2. Okay, so just testing that alone, just those two paths. Super simple. We haven't even really done anything yet. And I should have all our spheres, right, in the correct paths. Perfect. Perfect. So, let's come along over here. Let's add a new start state. Because he's going to be a manager, let's create a new global and call him TD manager. And then he can go get our paths. Okay. There's that. So now let's make a unit. I can use people, I can use spheres, it really doesn't matter. Maybe I will use just capsules, which is kind of unusual for me, but whatever. If it works, it works. So, alright, you know what, I don't know if I'll, sure. So here's a capsule, and he can be like that. And you know what, I am going to actually parent him, because I don't want the anchor point in the middle. I don't like that. So let's move him up, and let's move him down. That's roughly how he would sit. Okay, perfect. So let's make a AI FSM. We'll call the FSM AI. Why not? We'll call this AI. Alright, there we go. We have an AI. It's perfect. So, okay, what we need now is we're going to need a path. He needs to know what a path is. So, we need to, let's set path. Let's do an event called set path. That will work. That will work just fine. So, in this, we're going to need to get some properties. We need to know what path we are on. It's going to be a type string, and that's going to be our path. Now once we have our path, with whatever we get, something's going to give us this event that's going to tell us what path we're on. If we are on path, say 1. We're going to want to array list copy. Let's do a copy. Actually, no, we don't even need to do a copy. You know what? Screw it. We don't need a copy. Let's just say, let's just start moving. Let's say move towards. Let's just use move towards. Move towards will work just fine. Target object is going to be, well, this is where we're going to need the array. Alright, well, there we go. Array list get next. A simple way to loop through everything. So the global is we need our tower defense manager. Our reference is going to be our path. We get a path, we use the path. So we have a loop event, loop, and we have a done event, done. And we have type, which is going to be a game object, and this is going to be our current marker. So we have loop and done. All right, so during the loop, what do? We're going to move to marker. We'll give it a speed, give it a distance, give it a finish. So what does it do when it finishes? It just goes here. When it's done, we can do something else. And that's really all this needs to do. So if I build another folder, because I apparently don't have enough folders, and we go and prefab him. Always prefab everything. TD stuff, there we go. So we prefab our AI. Now this is just one AI. We're going to get to multiple waves in a minute. So let's say, for now, just for testing purposes, let's come over here, and let's create a AI. And we don't need to parent him. The spawn point is going to be a random spawn. So the other thing we're going to want is we need to create a random position, right? We have path 1 and we have path 2, right? And I built these strings to match the names here, to match those. And that's just an easy cheating way of doing things, is because we could ultimately, all right, so let's get a random. Let's say, or we could do sequence. How about that? All right, or, you know, or not. Event. Give me a event, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, apparently I just can't spell right. So let's go 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So if we are 1, let's set string. Do we want to do string? Okay, tell you what. Let's make a tiny little array inside our manager. This could be our paths. And it could have 2. And there's path 1 and path 2. Alright, so now we can array get from our path number 1. It's going to be our, I guess we can He's our random spawn. So that'll be there, and he'll be there. Now, the other thing we're going to need is, now that we have that, let's copy that again, paste, and he can be index 1. Alright, so now we can choose, it'll go path 1, path 2, path 1, path 2, path 1, path 2. Right? Or you can do random event, or whatever, really. It really doesn't matter. Either way, we're going to create the AI at that point. Now, what if we get the name of the random spawn, which gives us a path name, to which we can now load the path name into a key called path. It is a type string. It's going to be the path name, and now we can send that event. Just like that. Then we're going to move down to move that to the bottom. We want to send the event to, not the user or not the owner, to the created AI, to the thing that we've created. The FSM name is AI. The event we're going to send is, I think I called it set path. Right, and we can finish that, and well, for now we'll just leave it there. So just that, we should be able to create one AI on a path. That AI should travel. Right, so there's our AI. He got created on our path, and he's traveling. He's just going to move to all the points. He's just going to go from point A to point B. That's it. Point A, point B. Point A, point B. Pretty simple. Right, but he's going to follow it just the way we want him to go, at whatever speed we want him to go at. Okay, cool. So let's say there is a tiny wait after we do this, and not long, like quarter of a second. No, let's go half a second. All right, so a little bit longer than that. So I kind of lied there, I guess. And then we are going to come over to a loop. Actually, no, we should have done that in the beginning. Yeah, we should stick the loop right in the beginning. Actually, that would make more sense. So a loop is going to be the wave size, to which it could just use a loop event and a done event. So when it loops, it can go to the sequence. When it's done, it can come down here, and this guy can feed into the loop. There we go. So the wave size, right? So now if I go wave size, put that into the input so I can play with it out here, and say we want 25 AI. Spread them out evenly along our paths at half-second intervals. Right there, now all of a sudden we have a bunch of AI, and then of course as it creates them, it tells them what path they're on so that they know to grab all the markers and travel along the path the best they can. So far so good. It's working. Imagine that. Imagine that. Right, and they follow pretty good. Alright, cool. So that's not good enough though, right? Because ultimately when we start, we want an event to start this, and we also want some properties. We want a few properties. Actually, we don't even need that. We need, what should we do? You know what? We don't even need to do that. Let's make a proxy, an array list proxy, and this could be level. How about that? How about that? So yeah, so let's do an event called start level. So if we get an event called start level, we are going to array list get the level at index current level type game object result current level object, and then from there we're gonna have to do some stuff. So what are the levels, right? So we would need to design a level. There's a level, right? So let's give it an FSM, and it can have an FSM called stats, and in stats we could have, oh, what can we have? We need arrays. So we're going to need a game object. So we have the AI. I'm just trying to think if we should just use numbers to go with that. Right, yeah, I mean, that's probably, it's a better way. Number of AI. And it could be an integer. So let's stick those down here. So if we say we have one AI, he is him, the number of AI is going to be 5. Oh, no, sorry, 5. Right? I'm gonna keep these aligned. Okay. So let's take his and go like that. Now this guy, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually just gonna prefab him. He's my level 1. And I'm gonna go into this guy now, and he can be, I'm gonna drag level 1 in there. So if we start level, which is now going to be this thing, this is our thing, we can we get our current level. Okay, cool. So we've gotten our object. We need to go through this list, right? So we want to array resize. So this is, I'm just gonna copy these arrays, unless I have get FSM array. Oh, okay, well I do. I got that. Well, I don't need to copy it or resize it. All right, so we need to say on our current level object, we have an array called AI. Or no, we have an FSM called stats, sorry. We have an array called AI. We have type index, selected unit. All right, so that is type game object. AI to create. Right on. So now we need to come along here, and we don't want to go into our loop yet. So we've grabbed our AI, the other thing we're going to need is get FSM array length. That's what we need, but we want FSM array length, and I don't have it. So let's see. Unless I use array lists. I don't really want to use array lists for this particular situation. So let's get array, no, FSM array length. Screw you, ecosystem. All right, so here we have array lists, FSM array length. Perfect. That's what we want. There we go. Celebrate my coffee. I'm Canadian. We love our coffee. So we have the item. So up here, once we get the object, we're also going to want to FSM array length, because we need to know how many AI are in this current level object. So notice how I put this below. So we're going to get the object. Now we're going to get the length, and we know its stats, and we know the variable name is AI, and the length is, we'll call it AI length. And for heaven forbid we confuse ourselves. So we now go through the selected unit, which will start at 0, which is fine, which actually we should set that here. Set int value, because every level we don't want it to, you know, start where it left off, I guess you could say. So we want to make sure it's clear that, so we're at 0. Okay, so we're starting the level. So we get this object, we get the value, this guy, from this array at 0, which is element 0, and we also get we get the length of how many there is. So now that we've done that, now we can loop, right? So we need to know how many loops to do, right? Which is this kind of wavelength. So essentially, we need to get another FSM array item. So just like stats, but now we're not talking about AI. Now we're talking number of AI, and the index can be selected units, fine. We can, because that'll keep these things matched. But now this is type integer, and we want to keep it as the wave size. So we get 2 items, right? We get the AI unit at selected unit, and we get this value at selected unit. So our selected unit controls both where we are in both arrays, right? So we're saying we want 5 of this AI, right? So now that we've done that, now we can loop. So we would loop 5 times, and we'd go back and forth, or you can do random, and we create the AI to create at that random position. We do our normal, give them the path, tell them to go, we wait our half a second, we loop back, so we're going to create all 5 of them, and when we're done, what do we need to do? We need to int add, so our selected unit, we need to add 1. Then int compare. Make sure to put that below the adding. So we're going to compare selected unit to the AI length. And if they are equal, we should be okay. And if it's less, we're okay. If it's greater, we are done. So if we're okay, we can now go up here and we get the next items in the list. And when we're done, this is how we're going to need to tell if the game's done. Right? So this is based on start level. So let's force the start level. Right? We're just going to come up to here. And that will tell us it should spawn 5 of this AI back and forth along our paths. If we did things right. And by we, I mean me. But if you're following this, that means you as well. Right, so there is... Oh, I did 10. So I did 5 for each. Which is kind of weird. I wasn't expecting that. I was literally expecting like 5 total. Whatever. But anyways, let's double check that, because that is kind of weird. Right, so it goes through. It said, okay, selected units now number 2. Number 2 was too high, so we're done. Oh yeah, okay. So here, the equal is done. Because if the int is 1, we don't have element 1. That's why it did that. That's why I did the 10. Alright, so there's 5. Equal is done. Okay, cool. Now, before we get into the logic on how to continue, like go on to the next level, let's build a couple different AI. So here we have the set path, and we have this move towards the max speed. So let's make the speed a variable. We'll even call it speed because it just makes sense, right? I thought so. So let's go 5 on this particular guy. Cool. Now let's duplicate him. Now we have AI1. And AI1 apparently did not... I did not put okay, we're in AI1. So AI1, what? How did I mess that up? Okay, delete that. Apparently I didn't save it before I duplicated it, which was just weird. So now we have AI1. So let's give him a speed of 4. You know, let's duplicate him. Give this guy a speed of 8. Sure. Cool. Cool. Alright, so now if I go to my level and let's say, okay, we're going to use all 3 of these particular guys. You know, obviously you would have different AIs for each level, but whatever. So the other thing we want to do is we want to make sure we always have the same number. So let's say we're going to take 8 of those and 3 of those. Right, so we should now get 5, 8, and 3 of these different AIs. And I should have made them different colors, but they're at least they're different speeds. Right, so here they come, running through. As you can tell, there's, you know, it's obviously got the different AIs there. They are running at different speeds. Alright, cool. So when they're done, there needs to be something that happens, and when they die from whatever, something needs to happen, and we need to get to the next level. Alright, so let's duplicate this level. And I could run different AI. Maybe we're only going to run 2. And let's run like 12 of those and I don't know, 15 of those or something. Right, so now I can go to the manager and say, okay, you know what, we have 2 levels now. I built 2 levels. Boop. There we go. There's 2 levels. While I'm at it, you know what? Let's make a material. Call that 1, just to help separate those guys out a bit. And let's make a 2. Maybe use that color. Make a 3rd one. And maybe he's that color. Sure. Whatever. Works great. So go to him, save, go to the next guy, capsule. He's got a different color now. We're going to go to the last guy, go over here, go to him, give him a color. Give him a color, thank you. Alright, so now that we have these AI and we have numerous levels, how do we tell when an AI dies or does something or whatever, right? How do we know when to go to the next level? Alright, so this is start level, so we don't actually want to start based on that, right? We're going to go off an event. So we have here is a level done. So we could do, and there's numerous ways to do this, is we could have another array an arrayless proxy, and we can call this current AI. Alright, so when we're creating these AI and we're doing this little phase here, we've created them, we're giving them their path, we're doing all this cool stuff, let's array list add. Alright, so if current AI, we're going to add type game object, we're going to add our created AI, just like that. Over here, all we're going to do is array list count, or you can use length if you have it. So we want, again, so the count is, we'll call it count, and I believe this isn't an every frame thing, so we're going to have to fix that. So in compare, and move that to the bottom. If count equal 0, game over, or game over, go over here, and if it's greater, continue, I think I spelled that wrong. And if we're going to continue, we're just going to come over here, do a next frame. Holy crap, can I not spell tonight? So next frame, come over here, go finish, go back, and just check again. Right, so game over, what happens in game over? You'd probably, I don't know, give money, pop up text, do some crazy stuff. Maybe you're waiting for a button. Don't know. But a button actually sounds like a nice, easy way to do things. So let's make a button. Let's call this start. And let's put the canvas to scale with screen size and put the button. Let's go 2D. No, let's just stick them here. Alright, cool. So we might as well start with him active, and that means in here, you know, I'm going to come over here just so I don't mix it up, just because UI button click event if this button gets clicked, we can now send the event to start level. There we go. Just like that. And he goes there. So if we're game over, oh, the other thing, you know what we're going to want to do? Activate. Let's deactivate the button, because it would be kind of weird just to leave it on there, to keep hitting it, keep spawning the same level over again. Alright, cool. So when it's game over, what do we want to do? Well, we're going to want to activate our button, for one thing, and we're going to want to int add, because we've completed the level. Current level, add 1. Right now, that's only if we've actually completed the level in the ways of we've defeated all the enemies. Now, you'd have to add another one here, where maybe we have a health, and if the health drops 0, we're going to go a different route. But for now, we're just going to do this. So when we activate the button, we can actually finish and go back up here, which waits for a button click, which goes back over here. So we're just going to go around over and over and over and over for how many ever levels there are. All right, and we can add an int compare for maximum levels or something. So the other thing we're going to need is these AI, all of them, need something. Right? They all need, for example, so this AI here, he's going here, and when he hits the end, something needs to happen, right? But he also might have health, right? He could have health and he's taking damage, right? So maybe he has a damage system. Damage comes in, it's reducing, oh, I don't know why I did that, don't do that. You know, damage comes in, reducing health, and when his health at 0, you know, something happens here, right? So we're going to end, we'll just call him remove. So when he removes, actually, you know what, we shouldn't do that. So if he dies, I didn't do any damage logic, but if, you know, we had a damage system there and he takes damage to the point where he's dying, here we would array list remove. Right, now what are we going to remove? We need to get what we're removing, which is ourselves. We're going to remove ourselves from the situation, so we might as well just call it self. So we're talking about the Tower Defense Manager. I forget the name of the reference. Created AI, I think it was. And we're going to remove ourselves, just like that. So let's just double check that, make sure that is current AI. Alright, well, let's go and fix that. Right, so that is current AI, right? So we want to remove ourselves from that list. Now, with that said, we could add another one saying reached end. And if we've reached the end, you know, we could FSM int subtract health from the manager, you know, more or less from the player, and then remove ourselves from the list just the same, right? And then that would obviously, that one would come from here. Send event to ourselves to the FSM called reached end. We have reached the end. It's all over, right? So that would mean that this particular, actually, you know what? This damage, I'm going to add this so we can see system event mouse down. So if I also click on them, I am going to end up killing them. Why? Because that's the power we have. So paste that as new there, because we want all our AI to do this exact same kind of fatality logic. All right, so straight copy. There is our map. We got our button. It says start. We click it. We start seeing our AI pop up. They're coming in. They're the different AI. If I click on them, oh, I didn't say destroy. So we need to fix that real quick. So here we also need to destroy self. Right, because obviously we're not going to exist anymore after this point. So I'm just going to copy that and go these two, paste component values, save, and go. Alright, so now we hit start, we start getting these guys here. And if I click on them, apparently nothing happens because I apparently messed up my logic. Do I have a U? Oh, I do have that. Alright, so he is going to be, let's double check. And you know that was going to be the main issue. I can't have the mouse over because I don't have a collider on them. The collider's on the capsule. I messed that one up, didn't I? Easy fix though. So anyways, let's just see what happens when they reach the end. So I probably don't need to maximize on play. So if we look at our manager now, and we can see, you know, we have all our AI here. They're running across our battlefield, and as they reach the end, they should be coming off of this thing and destroying themselves. To which apparently I didn't copy that logic over right. Those ones did. Okay, I forgot to do it on, I guess those two didn't copy over, probably because I didn't save it or something. But so a couple things we need to fix, right? So those ones are gone. So this guy here did it right? He reached the end, set an event, he destroyed himself. So like I said, now the mouse over, like I have this capsule controller, capsule collider, paste component. You know what? Screw it. Let's just get rid of that and add a. It doesn't even need to be a capsule route. It can be a cube for all I care. Right. So I mean, obviously, it needs to be height 2, 0.5 is fine. Go up 1. Hit save. Now that I've saved that, now I'm going to copy that guy, go over to number 2, paste him in, double check him, because this is the part that didn't copy over right, because I never copied it over because I didn't want to screw up the speed. So we need to say reached end. Okay. So he's there, he reaches the end, he does the destroy self. That's cool. Let's add a capsule. 2 and 1 and get rid of this capsule. Alright, let's do the last AI where we add a capsule to him. 2 and 1. That's just to make sure things line up properly. Obviously you would have that done a little probably better, but hey, who am I to judge, right? So we're going to send an event to ourselves, to the FSM, to reached end, and reached end does destroy self. Okay, cool. So now we hit play. Now that I got a capsule on the thing that actually says the mouse down, we should be able to hit start, see all these things spawn. All right, if I keep an eye on the manager, we can see all this happen. And if I click on him, he destroys. And if we watch, make sure they're all in. So we're at 15, right? So if I click on these guys, and of course they're frickin' tiny. Here, I'll work on the back. As you see, they are dropping off. And there. It went to 0. We're on the next level. So we hit start. And we're loading in level 1. So I guess this would be level 0. Right now we said what, 25 or some bloody thing, or 15 of each, right? So this is a completely different wave. There we go, right? Totally different. And again, I can click on these guys and they work kind of just fine. Now obviously you'd be building towers and getting money for this, and that's, you know, the tower defense game. This isn't like a tower defense game. This is actually the spawning system, even though technically we're covering a lot more than just spawning. But okay, right? So there's a spawn system. Now, like I said, now this works 2D and 3D. We're doing it in 3D. Cool. What's the difference in the 2D is really it's really just that. I mean, our path system is just empties. There's nothing wrong with placing empties along a 2D realm and having sprites, you know, follow those along just the same, right? Literally identical. Like, it's doesn't matter if it's 2D or 3D. The whole mouse over thing and stuff like that obviously is a little different, but that's not part of this. But the idea of the levels, the AI, the number, even these AIs, they're only using move towards. They're not using the nav mesh, so they don't care if it's 2D. They don't care if it's 3D. They don't care if it's freaking 4D. I don't know what 4D would look like, but hey, whatever, right? So yeah, this actually works totally fine in 2D and 4D. But there's a nice little tower defense kind of spawning system, right? So we can start the level. It spawns our AI. I'm going to move that down a bit. The AI spawn in. I said, if you want to make this random, you can make it random. I just back and forth for myself. We're spawning in different AI at a certain volume of them. And when it's done, we go to the next level. And the next level is a completely different spawning system. Or not spawning systems, different spawning wave. But yeah, there we go. Cool.